Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. 'Tis me, him, and him. To start with, we are expecting some more folks along. There will be folks along directly, maybe somebody from somewhere quite exciting as well. So we'll see if they turn up or not. But the first thing, hello Bruce and hello Nicola. But I wanted to that Zocht, Zoe HD Zod, I don't know how you say Zocht, whatever it's called.
Zocht. Yeah.
Zocht. What's that wing called that you reviewed today? The something, whatever. What is it?
It's a Zocht.
But what was Azocht, but it was, I can't remember what's the full name of the thing, because I thought it was ugly, but I like to Richard and Oda, Mick.
.XL Extreme, and then I like to add, for clarification, FPV Cruiser, just to tip some people off what to do and what not to do with it, because apparently quite a lot of folks think this is an FPV racer, and I'm guessing probably they got that idea from the fact that the regular dot is it's an absolute blast to fly, and it's agile, nimble, fast, but it's small and it can take it. This thing was not made for such things. This was made not to tip stall, to be stable in the air, and to have quite a decent flight time too, to be honest, and to fly calmly. You can zip around with it, but try not to be close to the ground.
Rich is asking, have I reported on the plimp? I always report plimps. They're terrible people that abuse others. Oh no, that's another thing, isn't it? But yes, no, we have had the plimp on the site. It's I can't remember what it stands for now. I'll have to try and remember, but I don't touch a thing because I think the lights might go out and anything. But what I wanted, getting back to this Dart XL, what I wanted to ask Bruce's opinion on that, and your opinion as well, Nicola, is: do you think all those fences are actually making any aerodynamic difference, or are they just go faster stripes?
You mean the vortex generators?
Yes, all the bits they've got hanging off it.
Well, they're not supposed to make it go quicker. They're actually supposed to optimize the airflow around the wing, so you don't get at least you can afford to go slower before it starts to stall or something, or at least starts to shake around.
Will that really work at such a small scale?
Yeah, it works. Somebody made a test recently. I watched the video by somebody, I don't remember who it was, and he put voltage generators on one wing and he didn't put them on the other wing, put some like very light strips of something behind the wing, and you can clearly see the effects of the voltage generators even on a model as small as this one. But even without them, I think the plane would still fly pretty good. They do add just the tiniest bit of drag because of their function. They're supposed to do that, otherwise they don't really work. But even I decided to install them because I knew my plane is going to be hitting the upper recommended weight limit. I'm just over 1.2 kilograms. And even though the guy from Zocht said I can probably load it up safely up to 1.4 because that's how much thrust the motor has, I think it can comfortably fly at around 1.5 kilometers as long as you understand what that means. That means you're gonna need to chuck it a bit harder for takeoffs, and you're gonna try and make those landings as smooth as you can, because some people have said, well, it's got a thin fuselage, blah blah, it breaks easily. Well, yeah, if you drop it from 3 meters in a stall, it would probably break. I'd actually be surprised if it didn't. And if you have it loaded with like a kilogram up front in the nose, of course it's going to break because the bulk of its mass is there and it's hanging on a little bit of foam. However you look at it, it's not going to end well. Thing is, I crashed it twice. They weren't serious crashes, but the thing almost doesn't have a scratch on it from these crashes. So the material is pretty good. If you're worried about the like the front section being weak, because it is indeed rather long, like from the edge of the wing to the frontmost part, it is kind of long.
It's ugly. It's ugly. And what's going on with the tail? I mean, that's just nonsense. It's aerodynamic nonsense, isn't it?
It doesn't have a tail. It's a wing.
Well, no, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. No, I'm just not using the right phrases.
It's an optional extra.
But isn't there a lot of trickery there with looks? Mick Malloy's saying it's to maintain laminar flow and all that. I understand, but at our Reynolds numbers, I mean.
No, the Reynolds numbers are very low for something this size, so that they will have an effect, but nowhere near the same effect they'd have on a full-size aircraft. And it's very hard to get laminar flow at these sizes as well. But I think the main reason for it is, as I mentioned in my video I did on aerodynamics of swept wings, is to stop span-wise airflow, because span-wise airflow wastes lift. It creates a bigger, and anything that's swept backwards or forwards will have span-wise airflow produced by the fact that the leading edge of the wing intercepts the airflow at an angle. And in fact, with a swept forward wing, you actually want a bit of span-wise airflow, because that's why they have their very good handling characteristics, because you effectively, by having the air flowing towards the root of the wing rather than the tip, you're actually reducing the tip vortex and you get better efficiency and better performance. That's why a lot of the old gliders had swept forward wings, because it does significantly reduce or increase the efficiency of the wing by reducing the wing tip vortex. So it would be interesting to fly that without the wing fences on and see what happened.
Well, thankfully, know someone that's got one that's probably able to do that.
Yeah, I don't feel like ripping these off. I've glued them in there pretty good already.
Oh, I'll rip them off for you.
Mick Malloy's mentioning Blarney in the glider in his in the comments, and I used to pull up a sandbag. Here comes a story. When I was 16, a couple of years ago, gliding at a gliding club in the UK that didn't want their Blarney anymore. We watched them reverse the tractor over the tail of it. Then they didn't have to have the Blarney anymore. Yes,
and thus the Zod was born.
And then we get a few Zods out of this. So
hold on a second.
Go on. I'm holding. I'm still holding.
It's terrible when people get old and they have to rush off to the toilet like that all the
time. Oh, there we go. This looks like more fun.
Yeah, this thing is probably, I think I talked about it last time. This is probably at least 5 years old. And it was designed by me. As you can probably tell, it's 3mm Depron foam and 6mm Depron foam and an EDF motor in there that actually came off of of my first airplane.
Fantastic for converting energy into noise, those things.
Yeah, a 35mm Sky Angel F-16 EDF jet. That was my first airplane. That's the first thing I've ever flown. If you can imagine that, it was like a 120-gram EDF jet, and trust me, that was a handful. And I don't know why I chose that for a first plane, but back then, things were different.
Simpler times.
It was around the dawn of the internet.
The dawn of the internet. Oh, come on.
These young people today.
It was only a couple of years after the tractor, whatever, the Blarney that was in the Air Force, and we were playing with the internet then, you youth. Yes, the browsers. I suppose he means a browser, Bruce. That's probably what he means.
No, but the thing is,
nowadays we had to assemble the bits by hand and feed them down the wire with a piece of wood. Oh, it was terrible.
We had the knitted one. This is part of the knitted web. This is old historic. Go on, mate.
This thing, I'm pretty sure if I get it flying again, this thing was unbelievable in the air. Every time I would fly it, everybody would stop flying and would just look at it, because that EDF's got a little bit of a vector thrust, because the control surfaces go all the way along the wings back to behind the EDF unit, and it was just unbelievable in the air. I still have
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
You don't believe that?
Yeah,
well,
you said it's unbelievable. I don't believe it. Do you think people were looking because it's so ugly? You know, ugly children. People look at ugly children.
No, because nobody had seen something like this by then, and I don't remember how I got the idea to do that. And I had no idea what the angle should be or anything else for that matter. I just started drawing something, then I cut it out. And this is actually the second version, because the first one got beat up so bad I just had to replace it. But I didn't change anything for the new one. It's just the same thing, just out of new foam.
I wonder if you would be slightly disappointed, but so nostalgic about it that you would hide that disappointment. I think you must do a review video. I think we must order a review video on your own aircraft and see what you think about it several years later.
Funny thing is, when I scaled it up for a 64mm EDF, yeah, around that time I was crazy about EDFs. It didn't quite handle the same, didn't quite perform the same. So I'm thinking, as you scale it up, something should change. But on this small thing, it was unbelievably fast and it was unbelievably agile. You just move the stick a little bit and it will do a U-turn on the spot, like literally on the spot.
You should kit set it, put it on the market, call it the Unbeliever.
Yeah, infidel or whatever. Maybe that wouldn't catch on. Well, you might. Well, your review, you might have convinced me to consider purchasing one of those machines, which would then mean I would have to consider purchasing some more. Oh, here's Louis. G'day, Louis. G'day.
Hi, guys.
Louis.
I might have to consider then purchasing. We're just talking about that ugly machine that your RC there.
You've got no eye for beauty, man.
Wow, that's probably true. But
obviously,
if I were to invest in one of those, then what's the current best simple FPV system? Or actually, no. Let's forget FPV for a second. What about controlling the thing? What's the best cheap long range radio system at the moment in the panel's opinion? FrSky
R9.
Yeah.
FrSky R9 seems to be working very well.
R9. Yeah. I've made a note. I've written it down. Okay. And it'll be a module in the back of my Tyrannus. And okay. Yeah. All right, we might give that a go.
And that would be a receiver on the other end in the plane, just in case you're not familiar with that concept. Yeah.
Not a cable. It's not.
No. Yeah. You know, they stopped using these last year, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
No, we still have people using wires here this year at control line. They go round and round those.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then what frequency are these things? Are these 900 megs jobs?
900 or 868, depending on your rigs.
Yeah, I'm using 868, and I think somebody mentioned that a friend of mine has done measurements, and even though 915 is not allowed officially because it's reserved for some mobile operator upload channels, some stuff like that, it's not actually used at all. There's nothing there.
It's the GSM. It's close to the GSM frequencies.
Yeah. But it's not used. There's nothing there, and we can use it. But I'd rather not, because honestly, people keep bitching about the stock antennas on the module and on the receivers. And all of the receivers I have here are with the stock antennas. My module is with the stock antenna. I haven't touched or modded or replaced anything, and I've got some amazing ranges. If you read through RC groups or on Facebook, you'd say, okay, this is shit. I'm not gonna go with it because everybody keeps bitching about the range. But how the hell can you not get range out of this? I mean,
well, are you in a place with a very low noise floor then?
No, I'm flying from within the city out to the airport radar tower on top of the mountain, because that white thing you see there in the video, that's the radar tower for the airport. So yeah. Definitely wouldn't call it noise free.
But on this one, I think you mentioned, sorry, on this video today that you put out, you mentioned that you had the antenna, I think, tucked away behind the battery or something.
Yeah, half of on the receiving side on the plane, because I was just too lazy to figure something else out. And even though Zocht have provided an additional cable for the wing connectors, you can actually put a video transmitter and or a receiver on each wing respectively, and move it out of the way of interference and stuff like that. I really didn't think I want to do that at this point, so I literally just stuffed the receiver the first place I thought it might be okay, and that was next to the battery, just between it and the power cables, and that's where the receiver sits. And basically, during a particular orientation of the plane, which was for probably at least half of the flight, half of the antenna is actually behind the battery, and I still got at 12 point something kilometers. I still had around 30 to 40% RSSI, and that's on the R9MM receiver, which is the smallest thing you can imagine, and it's got a single antenna. You get one of the bigger receivers with dual antennas, and I think you'd be good for a lot. And even that thing, if I put it out on the wing, I'm pretty sure it would go over 20 kilometers. And keep in mind, I'm not using the highest setting on the module as well. I'm running it at 200 milliwatts because at this point at least, I doubt I need more, especially if I put the receiver in a better place.
What mode are they using for the transmission? Is it frequency hopping? Is it single channel? Is it LoRa?
Nah, it's their standard ACCTS whatever channel hopping thing. Is just on a smaller band, because the allowed number of channels for the 868 and 900 megahertz is smaller than 2.4, but it's still the same hopping technology. And I'm not sure though if the LBT works like the 2.4 listen before talk thing. I don't think it does that on 868, because yeah, Bruce is saying no. Yeah, because there's pretty much only you there, and you really don't need that at this point.
Oh yes. Well, I put a little video out. I'm playing with these TT Beam Go LoRa jobs, and they're 868.1, but the antennas that they come with are been shown to be very, very off kilter. So I'm looking forward.
No surprises there.
Well, no. Now that Bruce is making 5.8 helical, so he needs to be making stuff that then would help me out on 868 and help you out on 868.
Actually, FR Sky have also released 868 tuned antennas. Apparently,
I've ordered some.
That's what the claim is. I haven't ordered any because I'm pretty happy with how things work right now, and I really want to push these stock antennas to their limits and then replace them. I honestly, I don't know, maybe the people that are complaining are copter guys that can't get a lot of separation between the receiver and all of the other stuff that's packed in these copters. But I mean, how much worse can you make something? But the antenna is right there between the battery and the power cables, and I still have 12 kilometers, and I'm flying at the top of the mountain. I'm flying around an aircraft radar, and that thing is in the kilowatts when it's working.
Mm, mm, mm. What's your thoughts on this subject?
Yeah. A lot of it's down to installation as well, because on small craft, especially multi-rotors, you've got a lot of electronic noise operating in a very small space, and flight controllers sometimes running on a half multiple of 900 megahertz, 800, they're running about 433 megahertz, so you get second harmonic from your flight controller hitting your receiver, desensitizing your receiver, and even a separation of maybe 7 or 8 inches is enough to really reduce that effect. So if you've got it on a fixed wing and you've got your receiver away from your flight controller, then you're not going to have that noise issue. But on a multi-rotor where you've got things crammed together, that can cut your range by a factor of 4 if you're not careful. And even things like HD cameras, a lot of those recording cameras have a lot of RF noise coming out of them. So they can, again, if they're too close to your receiver, they can screw it up. Used to be even worse on the old UHF, the Dragon Link and the immersion stuff, because they were right down there at 433. But when you go up to double that, you still got harmonics from those elements, which can affect the sensitivity of your receiver. So it is down. I might do a video actually on how to do a good long range installation and the things to look out for, because having your antenna behind a battery is far less of an issue than having it too close to the noisy bits.
Oh, really? That's it.
Even copters, you get some commercial copters that have a good placement for the antennas. If you pick up one like the DJI, the M600, they have the antennas on the legs, and they work quite well at the claimed ranges for their transmission system. So not all copters, not all copters are okay. If you go to
with the
small racing styles, but who's going to race a copter at 2 kilometers or 20 kilometers? I would.
That's a thing now, isn't it? That's a thing.
The thing is, these copters don't really have legs you can mount antennas to. But I actually have 2 run cams, like recording run cams in the nose, about 10 centimeters or so from the receiver, also operating. So it's getting bashed around. Although
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you there, because we're going to go to Eric, who's on very exciting. I'm very excited about Vanuatu, which is, what a place to be. Can you hear me over, Eric?
Yes, I can hear you. Have you got my video there?
Yeah, got your video now. G'day to you. Well, that's the first time I've had a look at the with the ham. Another boring radio thing. The ham radio days. All the islands around you used to be places to try and talk to on HF. But anyway, that's another story. So I was quite excited with this one. What are you doing, Eric? Who are you from, Eric? What are you doing?
Yeah, no. So my name's Peck. I'm the CEO and one of 2 co-founders of a company called Swoop Aero. So. We're one of the contractors that was selected by UNICEF and the Vanuatu Ministry of Health to provide a vaccine distribution service across a number of provinces of Vanuatu. Very, very exciting project for us. So it started off around about, we got onto the island kind of 4 weeks ago to do a series of site recce's and go out to some of the landing spots and actually understand the environment. And then we had 2 weeks of demonstrations to the Ministry of Health and UNICEF to prove that we had the capability to go and deliver. And then we were the only contractor to complete phase 1. So we're actually out on Erromango Island at the moment. We've just completed a flight. We completed the first flight yesterday. You may have seen the New York Times article. And we've just completed our second flight. So I'll actually flip the camera around and you can see what it looks like where we're operating from. If I can turn that camera around, there we go. So you should have a fairly good view now. So this is our ops center. That's Blake, our chief remote pilot over there, packing up for the day. There's an aircraft without its payload pod on the bay there. And yeah, this is kind of how we're living at the moment, which is pretty nice. And so we're in a town called Dillon's Bay on the west coast of Erromango Island, which is in the Tafia province. So.
And you guys are Melbourne-based, I think, normally. And did I see that your airframe is, and Swoop is your company, is your airframe 3D printed?
Yeah, that's correct. So we're based out of Melbourne in Australia, and Vanuatu is our first commercial operation. So we use a really cool combination of 3D printing and commercial off-the-shelf components to make a really cost-effective airframe. So It's effectively a carbon fiber skeleton with a 3D printed shell over the top of it, and then we mainly use commercial off the shelf or open source technology, and then stack in little bits of our own tech that we've developed ourselves where it's needed. So we're about 80% commercial off the shelf and 20% Swoop IP, but that's about how we work. So.
And what size, what sort of weight are you lifting, and over what sort of distance?
Yeah, so we do 2.5 kilograms of payload. So aim to take 2.5 kilograms of vaccines, which is round about enough to take the requirement for 50 children. And we're looking at 100 kilometers flight distance as the top end of what we're doing. So here in Vanuatu, the longest flight we do is on the Shepherd Island group, where we support one of the outlying islands, 65 kilometers over water out and 65 kilometers back. And we'll be doing that next year. The flight today was about 70 kilometers total distance out and back. Took 25 minutes each way, and we replaced a 2-day walk between these two villages with a 25-minute flight. So very exciting. And
that's so it's a walk, so it's not across water then, that one. Well, Bruce could do that, of course. But so where am I going with that? So are the vaccines are they cooled, or are they just are they in some sort of container within the aircraft as well?
Yeah, so the aircraft payload bay was designed to take a WHO approved vaccine carrier. And at the moment, we've got a custom vaccine carrier in there. Basically, we didn't want to disrupt the cold chain that they're using over here in the Ministry of Health at all. So we designed our system just to take in the current way everything's done. So the nurses on the islands get to pack the vaccines exactly as they're used to into the carrier, and it goes out on the flight. They take the carrier out. If they want, they can transfer the vaccines and the cooled ice packs out and put them into their own vaccine carrier, and then send any equipment they want back the other way. So we looked at some active cooling, but it's a lower risk model to just carry the ice packs, and that's what they already do. So we thought we'd just fit into their system as best we could.
And well, if you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. But why didn't you go the parachute zipline route? Why separate lift thrust? Why did you go down that vector?
Yeah, so my background is I was a C-130J Hercules captain in the Air Force before I came out, and statistically 1 in every 10 parachutes doesn't open. So we weren't keen to have a system that relied on us flying over the top and parachuting something in where we can damage the vaccines, or potentially not have control over that ballistic payload that comes out of the bottom. And then we really wanted to have the ability to offer two-way transportation, which is kind of the backbone of logistics in established industries. So being able to not only fly something out but fly something back is really important. And so a great case. We've moved a few things backwards and forwards today. Tomorrow morning we'll be resupplying with some spare parts from the other end of the island that one of our other operators has over there. And it's not only vaccines we can carry. Today we carried the first letter delivered with a drone in Vanuatu as well. So that was from one of the people in the village over here in Dillon's Bay sent a letter to a cousin who was a nurse at Port Narvin. So all very exciting stuff. But facilitating two-way logistics and de-risking the ballistic load was the key reasons we avoided going for a parachute or anything.
That's fantastic business speak. That de-risking the ballistic load. I like that very much indeed. So you were a Hercules driver. Why didn't you then just copy a Hercules and run it off a runway?
Run the Hercules off a runway?
Well, make a just an RC Hercules and then run it off a runway. Why go for the complexity of VTOL and not for a cargo fixed wing aircraft?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'll use yesterday as an example. We really wanted to be able to get them into tight locations. So here we've got a reasonably big space. We're taking off from we've probably got 300 square meters where we're standing now is a clear area, but in Cook's Bay, where we made the first delivery to yesterday, we only had a circle 14 meters in diameter surrounded by 30-meter trees. So we effectively dropped straight down into a gap in the middle of the the jungle out here, or the town was in amongst all the trees, and that was the only size gap we could have. So it's much easier to fly in and then effectively drop her straight down in the gap to land than to try and parachute something into that gap, or some other type.
You answered my question as well. I'm very cheeky. So the last one I'm going to ask you: why not a helicopter then?
Yeah, that's a good question. We saw the key benefit we saw out of using the quad plane format is we get a slightly better efficiency, which enables us to service some of those islands that are further out. And that's the real answer. We just get slightly better efficiency than a helicopter, particularly an electric helicopter. We didn't want to use any gas here so that we can be completely off the grid if we need to. So, we don't need fuel. We don't need telecom towers. We don't need anything to control them. So the idea is that we're completely off the grid and we're able to support ourselves in the infrastructure. So combining that electric power and the efficiency gain of having the fixed wing in there, we thought was beneficial going over a helicopter.
Well, that's exactly the thinking for the Lake Victoria Challenge coming up in Tanzania again next June, and I hope we'll see you there next time. Yeah, they want to go electric as well. So what do you do for your C2 link? Do you have a link all the way to the islands that it's going, or wherever it is, or do you hand over to somebody? What happens on the landing phase? You hand over to somebody, or is it all completely autonomous?
No, the aircraft itself is completely autonomous once it's en route. So we just pre-program a mission in there, and then we've got some a path planning algorithm. We don't have turned on over here at the moment because we're still looking at all the terrain, but we can path plan around everything and look at effectively ADS-B signals or transponder signals and maneuver if required. But really, it's flying along the pre-programmed route, gets to the other end, drops off. They do the payload exchange. It takes back off and flies all on its own without any external interference. So we use some pretty cool tech to control it through satellites effectively. So we've got a link the whole way. Yeah.
And so at the other end, somebody will load the box, I assume, or however it works, put a box into something, and you just press go and stand back like a lit firework.
Yep, yeah, that's exactly it. So where we have good telecom service, they can shoot us a text message that effectively commands the drone to go, or scan a QR code on the back and press a button and launch it off, or we can also do the standard button press and countdown procedure. So.
Wow, it's very exciting, and congratulations to you on getting. Now, this is a commercial contract. This is you actually delivering a service.
Yeah, that's correct. We're being paid to service Erromungo Island in the Tapia province, and then Epi and the Shepherd Island group in the Shefa province, which is a bit further northern up. So we start on Epi in about the end of January this year. So it should be really exciting.
So you are then, Swoop Aero is the first commercial two-way delivery drone. I should have thought of something to make up here, but you're the first in the world, aren't you, for two-way delivery?
Yeah, that's correct. We are.
Yeah, well, that's got to be good. Congratulations, very well done indeed. It's what pleases me more than anything is it's it's a need. It's not a frivolity. It's not. I like the people at Project Wing. They're very nice people, but it's frivolities. Delivering a burrito is not necessarily what's needed in this world, and so I'm very pleased that saying. And the World Health Organization, are they happy with it? What are they? What are they thinking at the moment? I guess you've got to say yes, haven't you, actually?
I'd say no if that was the truth. I think, but we've had some really good outcomes in the last couple of days. We've proven to them that we can do it, reliably and safely. So, or consistently and safely. So now it's the key is to prove that this can be done reliably every day of the week, and then cost effectively on top of that. So, they're happy with where we've been so far. So I know we've got a live stream that we can put out onto the internet, and I think we had the head of UNICEF over in New York, WHO in Geneva, and I know we had the ministers over here in Vanuatu all watching it live. So so far they're pretty happy, and yeah.
And the weather limits. What are the weather limits for the machine there?
Yeah, we've had her up in upwards of 30 knots with gusts. So the wind limit in the hover, as most people on the call are going to know, is the key thing that limits us there. So we just incrementally increase the weather, but realistically, that takes us through 90% of weather conditions over here. And then effectively, as long as you're not flying in a thunderstorm, we're good to go. So we don't like hail, but we can fly in rain quite happily. You know, as long as the wind's not too strong, not kind of upwards of 45 k's an hour, we're pretty good in the hover. So.
And will the vehicle scale? Is there a plan to scale it? Are you going bigger, or is it staying where is it? And you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. Or is it staying where it is? I'm
happy to answer. At the moment, we've kind of fixed the plan form of the vehicle. We haven't had a real market need to carry heavier payloads. We can do a few little things, a little bit of FEA and that kind of stuff to streamline it down and get a bit more range out. And we do have a bit of capacity where we can put extra batteries in if we want the extra range. But at the moment, we're kind of hitting the nail on the head with the market needs. So we're not going to make a bigger vehicle unless we need to, effectively. So if we get approached to do a project that's a longer distance or a heavier payload, we'll have a look into it then. But initially, we're happy with the plan form.
So how did you end up being the first company to do this and not Project Wing or one of the big, oh yes, of course, the big one, Amazon, the big famous one that's doing nothing? How come you got there first? Come on, small company from Melbourne.
I think the real reason is that we identified, you know, we heard about the Vanuatu trials in 2016, and we had this contract they were wanting to launch in late 2017 and kind of got pushed through to this year. And we saw that was an actual need in the market, and then we designed a system specifically to meet those needs. So originally we were looking at doing some work in Australia, but the requirements for the Vanuatu contract gave us this really nice ability to pick a refined set of requirements and build out a system. So not only the physical technology, but the the software at the back end, all the technology on the vehicle itself, and the processes that sit over the top of it to deliver it. And I think we just had a really good 6-month run at building all of that out. We stacked that technology as commercial at the shelf versus our own in a really good way, so that we minimise our own R&D costs. And then we built a system that actually met a need in the market. And so I think that combination of actually building to the market need was really what enabled us to put in a good bid and prove that we had some technical capability to come and do it. So the beautiful thing about this Vanuatu contract is that it allows us to get into the market, and then the combination of the 3D printing and the way we've built the vehicle, we can iterate on it as we go to make sure that we're really hitting the nail on the head.
And will you be training local people to operate this? Will you be making the aircraft locally, or is it all going to be made in Australia and taken across there? And how does the spares situation work?
Yeah, definitely. So when we're talking about spares in terms of physical components, they just get ordered in. The longer term vision for this, and I'm talking, it should be the midterm vision, it's kind of only 3 to 6 months away, is training local operators and training a local workforce to assemble these on site here in Vanuatu, and also to effectively be able to 3D print the components in Vanuatu. So my experience in the Air Force is that you really need something that can be supportable in the field, and we think being able to 3D print components, either on the islands or in the main city of Port Vila, and get them out really quickly and cost effectively is the key way to support it. So our vision for Vanuatu is to have a completely local workforce.
Well, excuse me for saying it, but you're an Air Force pilot. It's probably better that you were a Hercules driver rather than a fast jet driver, because you've come from the absolutely perfect world for deliveries and logistical support via the air. So fair play to you. Perfect skill set. I think you're the only C-130 driver I know in the field. No, that's fantastic. I'm super impressed. I'm super impressed with what I've seen of you guys online, and I can only wish you well. I'll see. I've hogged in the questions. Chaps, has anyone else got any other questions here for Eric? No, shaking a head from Bruce. No, no more questions. Stay with us if you can. Stay with us if you can, because I'm going to rant now about the boo boo. Good. I don't know what that was. I don't know what that comment's about, boo boo. But anyway, something that's really, I'm going to just join on to something that's really got my goat. And well, before I do that, I say I really do hope you'll consider coming out to Lake Victoria next June, because you have a craft that absolutely fits their requirements. It's exactly the same requirement, and there's contracts available over there as well in 8 African countries. So you must come along. Anyway, moving on. This week, the world's going nuts about this radome, the drone that hit the front end of a 737, and there's going to be death and destruction left, right, and centre. And it's driven me nuts in the last couple of days. Does anyone else want to offer up any opinions on that?
Isn't that the same damage type? It's very similar to the one that that happened a couple of years ago in Mozambique to a similar plane. So
it's identical. It's absolutely identical, and it'll probably end up being the same thing. And where I've had a long day today, and the people on LinkedIn, particularly people that are selling anti-drone systems, have jumped all over this, and every single dodgy report they're reposting it, and it's got me thinking, well, where do these businesses fit in the industry? Are they the enemy to all of us then? Are we going to just... They're not. All right, well, what's your opinion?
They're just trying to do their business. They can do their business, and as long as we do our business in a safe and professional way, they don't collide.
Well, yes, but should we not be supporting the ones with a little bit more realistic viewpoints rather than the ones that just shout and call for all the fairies?
We've had our share of unrealistic expectations raised on the drone world. So why shouldn't they have their share of unrealistic promises and expectations on the anti-drone world? Well, it's just natural. It's just natural.
Your calming influence, your calming steady hand at the tiller there, Louis. Yes. All right. Maybe you'll calm me down a little bit, but I did the obvious thing today. I just started unfriending, or whatever the word is, on uncolleaguing, probably on LinkedIn, isn't it? People today that are particularly doing it.
Which reminds me of something. If you don't know someone on LinkedIn or on Facebook, why do you befriend them? Or do you say you know them?
True. No,
especially
it's true.
On LinkedIn, especially on LinkedIn.
True.
If I don't know someone and someone asks me for friendship or connection or whatever, why should I accept?
Well, it's two things, isn't it? LinkedIn is because you can bullshit hard at people that you are the king of the world and expert at absolutely everything.
Yeah. I still have to finish up my LinkedIn profile, and I have LinkedIn ever since it started. So
well, that's different. I don't think you. Yes, I separate the friend request on Facebook. I do try and keep that to friends and people I've heard of or know of or have said something interesting. And LinkedIn, it is just a bit of a free for all. But people definitely fish on LinkedIn for the ability to see past you and see your other contacts that you have, and then start bothering them. So yeah, you're right. Maybe it's time to scale all of it down. LinkedIn is our number 2 provider of social media links. So I'm going to give it a bit of a push. That Bruce is shaking his head. Go on, tell me off, Bruce. Tell me off.
I was looking on LinkedIn for Bruce, and I was looking under antennas manufacturers and designers. Yes. I couldn't find him, so I didn't have him as a friend on LinkedIn.
No, LinkedIn. I've got about 1,000 invitations to join LinkedIn from all these people that want to have me join, but the life is too short. I think LinkedIn is where you go if you just want to show off and say, look at me, and I don't need to do that. It's tragic. It's Facebook for grown-ups, but it's not really. It's still Facebook for children. I see no value in LinkedIn. But as for this latest drone report, I think it's time that we started pushing the pilots unions and the airline companies and everything for some apologies, because they have effectively been defaming the drone community by suggesting that the people are flying these drones and they're crashing into airliners and they're causing... No, No, I'm sorry, but I don't like having my reputation slighted like that, because when I go out in the park and fly my drone, people look at me and go, ooh, he's one of those people that crashes into airliners, even though we have no evidenced instances of this ever actually happening. So at some stage, we need to call them and say, right, put up or shut up. And until there is an actual evidenced incident, then we don't want to hear any more of these defamatory allegations. It's all only allegations. And pilots' unions are amongst the worst. They have this hymn book. If something bad has happened, can we blame it on a drone? Yes, we'll do that. It'll deflect the blame. Before we start worrying about all these drone issues, how about we get Boeing to properly document their system so that Lion Air didn't crash into the Pacific? I mean, things like this, that's claimed hundreds of lives, but no one seems to care too much about that. Here we got some kid flying his drone in a park and an airliner passes over at 3,000 feet and the pilot says, we had a near miss with the drone, we saw a drone on approach. No. People need to get their priorities sorted. They need to come up with evidence and scientific information to back up their claims, not this scurrilous, oh, I saw a drone, or a drone smashed in the front of my plane, or whatever. Unbelievable. So I think we as a group need to unify, and we need to get out there and start banging some heads.
Well, look at Eric, but look at the story that's going around in the media is this flipping radome, and people sort of, I think they must think that they're made of solid steel or something, because otherwise when they drive into a mountain, then you can deflect the front of it. They don't realize that these things are kind of made of paper because they've got a radar sat behind it, and you can't make it as something super solid, so they cave in all the time. So, but that's the story that's out there and big at the moment, and it's completely washed over Eric's really positive story. Okay, Eric's drone per se won't save a life, but the vaccines and stuff that his company is delivering are going to save lives, and they're going to make a difference, and they're going to be cost-effective air transport in the modern world. And that should be the big story.
Look at what Derek is doing. He's flying medical supplies 100 kilometers. If he wasn't doing it, you will have to get some helicopters, commercial pilots, big contracts, because we all know that 1 hour flight of an helicopter costs a few $1,000s. So if the project is taken and goes forward, what happens to those pilots that would otherwise be doing that job?
No, but they wouldn't be. It's the same in Lake Victoria. That doesn't. They're not there. That system isn't there. It's somebody, as he just said, somebody walking 2 hours or whatever the time was he mentioned. We'll have to rewind to look, and that gets the job done in 20 minutes. They fly across to an island, Ukuera, just off Mwanza, and that's if you look. I've been. Maybe I'll show you.
I bet if there was budget to support commercial helicopters.
Oh, absolutely, but there isn't budget. There's simple. There isn't budget. It's not there.
Yeah, so that's the same as Eric. Eric's project on Vanuatu. That's the same. If there was a budget of millions of dollars, because one such project using helicopters or float planes or whatever. If there was millions of dollars, that job would be taken by full-size aircraft.
But I think we're going to see. I'm getting a bit evangelist about this, aren't I? But I think we're going to see a transfer of skills as well. So if we get our fleet of seaplanes in, or our fleet of European helicopters in. Yes, you'll upskill a few people to service them, but not many. Whereas this might see some fourth industrial revolution manufacturing jobs start, not thousands of jobs, but a few jobs, in creating these systems, and hopefully that'll lead to other robotics interests within companies, within, dare I say it, third world countries. So I think the whole proposition is quite exciting, really, and it's not delivering pizzas to a flipping suburban, pizzas and DVDs and CDs that the whole world is jumping up and down about. It's making a difference. I'll stop ranting. 507RC says they're still waiting for their dream job in the drone industry to miraculously find me via LinkedIn without me having to put much effort in. And then G36 pilot says even when the pilot reports, he doesn't know what he collided with often, and they get misreported as a drone. So yes, it's it really has got my goat today.
No, you shouldn't. You should. Those reports about that radome are just what they are. From the news I've seen, I haven't seen them all because I wasn't on LinkedIn for the last few days. I didn't get any notifications, so I didn't click on them. I didn't buy the clickbaits of the LinkedIn emails. I saw it on general news, and it was a defect on the radome of the plane. I saw the pictures, and I said, "Damn, this looks like the Mozambique airplane." So,
and it's what I've been enjoying about this during this piece is Bruce has had his head down, offering us a radome kind of view. So maybe we'll see his radome by breaking.
No, we cannot crack Bruce's radome because.
Yeah, so are you soldering there? What's happening there?
Oh, he's doing your antenna.
I'm making a high gain omnidirectional antenna. Some guy on the internet can make it the high gain.
Right.
Well, no, this one's actually 5.8 because it's a proof of concept, but it's something that you can do on 868. Yes.
Are you making a collinear or a J-pole or a?
Yeah, it's a collinear. It's a 8-stage collinear on this one, so should give me about 9 decibels of gain over isotropic. And
was it 9? Have you put a component across the top to?
No, because you want a 50 ohm. One way you can do it is you actually have a quarter wave whip at the top, which represents 50 ohms, but it adds signal as well. So you actually get just putting a resistor across the terminator. You don't get the benefit of an extra quarter wave. So it gives you a little bit more in terms of gain if you do it that way.
So how many elements? You said that was 9 element.
This is an 8-element one.
8 elements. Sorry.
It's on 5.8 gigahertz. Yeah.
I was wondering if 900 or 800, whatever, 900 megs isn't good territory for PCB created antennas. Etch them out, or is that old school and people wouldn't do that anymore?
You could do it, but I mean, you need a fairly long piece of PCB, and etching is a pain in the ass, backside I mean. So, but this is just segments of coaxial cable, semi-rigid cable. It's really easy to make. And so I'm going to test this out. And actually on my FLAM receiver here, I've got a 8-element collinear, and that works very well as well. So yeah, easy to make, easy, not necessarily hard to, you don't have to tune them if you cut them to the right size, and they produce pretty good results.
Yeah, I use the for ADSB as well, but I'm not transmitting with them, so I'd be a little bit nervous that I've got it right, because I mean there are some bad effects if you I don't think people understand that you can be feeding power back into your radio, and that's not the best thing to do. Yeah,
mind you, look at some of the commercial antennas, they're so bad. I mean, the first antennas that came on the Free Sky R9 modules were tuned to 2.4 gigs or something completely wrong. And so unless you're pushing high power levels, it's not too much of an issue. If you're only running 100 milliwatts, you're unlikely to break anything if you get it wrong. But as I say, if you just take a little attention to detail when you build them, it's pretty easy to calculate, and they're usually within cooey.
Are you going to put that in a plastic pipe or anything like that, or are you going to leave that free?
Well, yeah, this one is just a proof of concept, so I could just heat shrink the whole thing, because on 5.8 gigs, the antenna portion is only that piece there, so it's pretty short. But I mean, I'll just probably just do up a little web page, and you'll be able to punch in your frequencies, and it'll produce the sizes for you, and you can cut your stuff to suit.
And that, for those people that know, you go in or out on bits of coax, really, don't you? And it works by the magical of you'll do some 3D rendering shortly for us and show us. Yeah, it's just it's like most gain antennas. It's effectively just a phased array of individual antennas that are phased to operate in concert and reinforce each other, and bingo, Bob's your auntie. But of course, it is a high gain. It's a high gain omnidirectional, but it's not,
because you can't have a high gain omnidirectional, because omni means the same in all directions.
Yes.
So what it does is that the donut that you typically associate with an antenna, you know, it's like a donut with the antenna in the middle, it squashes it down so it stretches out further, but it doesn't point up as high. So you have a very big null spot on those.
Yeah,
types of antennas.
it's a bit flat, isn't it? It's like a squash butterfly, if you will.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, but it's quite good at the horizon, isn't it? That's why it's quite
It is.
good.
Yeah, so you got to watch. If you're flying overhead, you don't get a very good signal.
Yeah. Oh, what's Louis
Gentlemen,
got
I might just quickly jump in there. I'm going to have to head off, but I really appreciate you having me on the program today, and I'm more than happy to dial in anytime next year and maybe share a live feed of a flight with you at some point. So
that would be wonderful. Thank you very much, and congratulations
Excellent.
on the contract.
Luck,
Congratulations to the team and everything you're doing there. You're making a difference, not delivering pizzas. So well done, you. Thank you, Eric. We'll see you again next year.
thank you, bro. Thanks,
Cheers,
Ross.
man.
Thanks for having me on, Garrett.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave. Bye-bye. Was I too much? Was that too much? That might be too much, mightn't it?
Can I have a pizza anyway?
No. No, it's just, well, it's a bit like the LinkedIn radome thing. I'm getting bored of people telling me that I'm going to be in my flying car shortly with my. But why do I need the flying car?
By the way,
deliver the pizza
by the
to
way,
me anyway.
haven't you seen the news of that flying car that crashed?
Yes.
I was expecting that you would be all pushed up but because of that, not because of that plastic Tupperware that crashed.
Well, it got inadvertently airborne, didn't it? So it depends how you want to define a crash, I suppose. If you get airborne by mistake, yeah, I suppose it is still a crash.
If it's airborne by mistake, it crashes by mistake. So
yes. Oh, that's got a weird. Have you see, do you remember that James Bond car that when it goes off the pier and out come the little wings? That's exactly what that thing. Yeah, that's right. But that's exactly what that thing's got. And that's like, woohoo, careful. You know, it's just
that's the what was the name of that crazy vehicle? Russian, the Echanocopter?
Oh, Echanoplanes, yeah.
Echanoplanes, yeah.
I don't think they're so crazy. I quite like them.
No, they were very effective for what they did, because that's always the same story with the Russian designs. You all remember the story of the paper, of the pencil and the $1 million pen. So that a chronoplane, it's a good concept for what it was designed to do. Perhaps flying cars should also use the same, but if they fly at 20 centimeters from the ground, what are they good for?
Well,
sorry,
saying that you've got a flying car.
No, it's not flying car. It's a personal urban mobility.
Yes.
Urban mobility. Oh my God!
We need now to have a set of acronym playing cards because there is. Yes, because there's
come on.
There's urban air vehicle, personal air vehicle. Urban air mobility and eVTOL. Those are the current four, I think. I stand to be corrected.
No, come on. You haven't been on LinkedIn for too long, because otherwise you'll get all kinds of crazy titles and inventions. So just you have to do your homework on LinkedIn.
There's societies for them as well now. There's a rotorcraft. It's like the personal rotorcraft society, but there's one for the eVTOLs and all that. It's like they're a thing. but they're not.
Is it like things. Sort of Madam Wendy's House of Horror?
Well, it is really. It's
Palace of Pain or something. One of those groups.
Yeah, well, you'd be the expert on that sort of thing.
Come on, Bruce.
Yeah, it's just that the hype. Well, actually, you're right. So we've had the hype about anti-drone stuff, and that there's one crowd that seem to be doing really, really well. The drone shield lot with that gun, that huge gun that comes in a big case, and it looks very I've put out 4 press releases this week for places that they've sold them to.
How can they do that? Because that's a breach of radio regulations in almost every country unless you have special dispensation to use it. Because especially on ISM bands where you have to operate so as not to interfere with other users. I mean, if you're shooting down a drone, well, you're clearly violating that provision of the ISM band. And although the operator of the drone must accept interference, you don't have a right to create interference. And so I wonder how this would stand up in the court if someone used one of those to shoot your drone down, whether you could then, they'd be prosecuted under the radio spectrum regulations.
Yeah, but just look at the countries they're selling them to. It's in the military. Yeah, what's this? Not Oman. Where's the last?
Ecuador.
No, it wasn't Ecuador. No,
Venezuela.
It was Kuwait. Kuwait Zain Group has sold them to Kuwait in the Middle East. So
they could use an RPG over there. They don't need a special drone gun. Just use, AK-47 or something.
Absolutely.
12 gauge shotgun is probably all you need.
12 gauge, yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, but they're selling them well. So that the hype and that's going well. And
yes, but Kuwait were going to buy Martin jetpacks to fight fires, and they were going to have the air taxi and all that sort of crap. Kuwait just have so much money that they have to throw it at silly, stupid things, probably just to make sure people know Kuwait still exists.
Well, they're chucking it, those, and that's got millions of column inches for those police motorbikes. The things are going to chop you off at the knee because you sit above the above the blades.
They operate by Sharia law, don't they?
They probably do, yes. Well, oh no, I definitely get this demonetized if I say, but you'd have thought that they'd have used flying carpets over there. But anyway, you'd think they've had the system built for years. Good. So the hours rolled on. Did anyone else see anything else this week? What else has happened in the world other than me moaning?
Okay. Want the big news? The big news?
Big news. Go on then. Big news.
Big news. Ardopilot is dropping NUTTEX. So
that's big old news. When does that actually happen?
No, it's going. A decision was taken this last week. So we'll be single operating system on 2019. All the next releases will be GBOs only. Going forwards, and with huge advantages for everyone that is using Ardopilot.
Oh, it makes logical sense to do it on the for 2019. I've noticed. Sorry, I missed Boo Boo's comment. Same as Yagi with the gains. Yes, Yagi's, especially at distance, are very much like pointing a pencil at something, or it can be if you're going for high gain. But yeah, no, well, that's good. That's good that Chibios is going to be king of the hill. For those that don't know, it makes basically makes your old version 1 PX 4 board run much quicker and everything else much faster indeed. I think, isn't it? Wouldn't it be fair to say it's the fastest autopilot code in the West at the moment?
Yes, GBOs is running quite well, and if you add the new F7 boards, then we have room to grow like crazy. And also, there's a new development from one of our good users, because I don't know if I mentioned that before. We've been cooperating with the guys from Drone EE. DRON.EE for their log analyzer, but they also sell some specialized carrier boards for the Pixoc 2 for the Cube, and they just launched a new one which carries the small Raspberry Pi Zero. So you get everything that was promised 2 years ago with Edison with the Raspberry Pi Zero on boards. Nice going from the guys of Drone EE. Lichee. LISHEE. And it's quite good because I've been following the progress that they've been very receptive to what the comments of the community, to what makes sense having or not having on as exposed on that board. They just finally released it, and the commercial availability 2019, just in January. So it's good to see the Ardu Pilot ecosystem thriving, and that for instance the Raspberry Pi Zero running with a cube brings a lot of potentialities, either with the AP Web, that is a project of Ardu Pilot, or with the one which I'm very fond of, which is called Maverick, which is an app, a series of apps running on the companion computer. So now you have the companion computer as a carrier board on an entire system. That would make the planes of Nikola completely ignore him and fly and fly and fly and take decisions well beyond range.
Right.
Well, I mean, obviously,
Speaking of range, I want to get back to Bruce's collinear antenna because I actually have some experience with that thing. A friend of mine built one, and I think it was last year we flew it on one of his planes on 5.8 gigahertz with a 1 watt transmitter and some panel antenna on the ground on the antenna tracker. And he had pretty amazing video at 40, even 50 kilometers out. Thing is, though, the moment the plane banked like 5 degrees, things went to shit. Quite literally.
I've been there.
Yeah. So he was for a time there, he was actually considering putting that antenna on a servo connected to some sort of stabilizer to always keep it, no matter how much the plane banks, to always keep it straight up. So he would have.
You never want to gain antenna on an aircraft because you always want that isotropic radiation, that total omnidirectionality.
Yeah.
So you want to have your gain antennas on your receiver. And one of the things with an antenna like this is a linearly polarized antenna, so you will get cross polarization losses if you run linear at the other end. But if you run a circularly polarized antenna at the other end, then it doesn't matter about the attitude of the model. This will always get the same signal. So the best way to do it is have a CP antenna on your aircraft and have your gain antenna, whether it is circularly polarized or whether it's linear as well, on the receiver. Now, what I'm looking at here is we're going to lose about 3 decibels with this antenna because we're cross-polarized with a circularly polarized antenna. So although it should be 9, we'll actually get about 6 decibels of gain, which is still a healthy amount from an antenna like this, considering it's omnidirectional. And as soon as we're finished here, I'm going to rush outside and try it. And
what's a 6 dB mean? That's just numbers. RSSI is all just numbers. What does that actually mean?
Well, 6 means a little bit more than 5, but not quite as much as 7, Gary. I hope I've explained that now quite clearly. Every 3 decibels is doubling the signal. So it's 4 times the signal. This is going to be 4 times as much signal as an isotropic radiator. But most of the little whippy aerials, you get about 2 decibels. So it's going to be about 4 decibels. So you're going to get just over twice, maybe 2.5 times as much signal out of this as you would get from your standard little rubber ducky antenna if you're using a circularly polarized at the other end. However, if you're using linear at each end, this will give you 9. So that's 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8 times as much signal.
So is it more efficient then? Because we see people putting 5 watts of power into antennas. So what's it better? Do I buy a big amplifier and chuck as much power in as I can?
Come on, Gary. It's the same as having a funnel. It's the same as if you open up the tap entirely and then you get a funnel. It's the size of the funnel that
I don't have a funnel on my tap. What are you talking about? You're talking nonsense. But people rush out and the plumber, people rush out and buy power amplifiers and they connect them to their standard antennas, and the logic goes, if I go from 1 watt to 4 watts, I'll go 4 times further.
You'll only go twice as far.
So if I was
ideally,
if I was to use a better antenna with the same power output, what would the answer be?
Every time you get 6 decibels again, you'll double your range effectively. So this antenna here would double your range when used with a circularly polarized antenna at the other end. And antennas are the best way to go because you are not wasting power. We're tolerated rather than really legally operating on a lot of the bands. So you really want to stay use the minimum power possible, because otherwise, if you fly over town and you blanket out all the Wi-Fi and all the garage doors open and close at random, you're not going to be a popular person. But if you keep your power levels low and don't make the lights go out in town, then no one even knows you're there. So you're better to use all the gain on your receiver antenna so you can pick up the tiny little signals that your transmitter on your model is producing.
Yeah, and don't stand in front of it. It does make me smile when I see people putting huge amplifiers in both their aircraft and on the ground, because it's also power. You've got to be flying up that battery. You'd rather be having more time in the air than burning it all down. And remember, when it comes from an airplane, it's downhill, so you don't need as much power from the airplane as it's downhill, and from the ground it's going up. That's right, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, and that little 7-tune helical that I built the other day, I did a little test. I got 1 kilometer at 25 milliwatts with that, and it was nice and clear. So, hey, that shows you how far you can go with very small levels of power as long as you use decent antennas.
Come on, but you were in New Zealand. There's no radiation there, so there was no interference there, Bruce. So it was clear skies.
How big was that helical?
What's that?
How big was that helical? How many turns?
7.5 actually.
Only 1 kilometer?
Well, it was still so clear at that distance. I could have gone further, but you got to stay within visual line of sight.
Absolutely, come on.
Yeah, I think up to 20 kilometers still counts.
Yeah, Eagle Eye, Nicola versus Eagle Eye.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Bionic. He's not old enough to remember the Bionic Man, is he?
Man, barely alive. We have the technology. We can rebuild him.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, there's a lot of nonsense spoken about antennas by folks trying to sell you things that won't work, especially in the DJI world. Don't go through all the hacks.
I believe that what happens is most of the fishermen became antenna builders.
Where's that come from?
Lou the fisherman.
No. Come on, you all know the story of the fishermen, because they all got this size fish.
Okay. Yes.
So they all became antenna builders.
Yes. Antenna builders without any SOER meters or anything like that. Anything to test the antennas with.
The funniest I've seen was some third-party antennas for the DJI radios that are golds, and they have some crazy rolls and very beautiful, extremely expensive, and they claim that you get a correct signal up to 2 parsecs of distance or something strange like that.
I think those are meant to tune into another dimension, actually.
Yeah.
No, there's definitely stay away from aftermarket devices. DJI know what they're doing when they when they put the antennas on there, and those things really go far enough as it is.
And then there's the placebo effect. Because if you speak with all those guys that bought them, they just swear by them. Oh my God, I can see the moon and the stars with these antennas.
Well, that would be impressive.
Yeah, no, it's good Black Magic. I actually quite enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to this Kalinio video, Bruce. And you must do a very nice 3D rendering of the circular polarized and all that. I see they seem to be there seems to be a little bit of a gosh, what were those antennas called? The cloverleafs. There seems to be a bit of a resurgence in them at the minute, and people using 1.2 gigs cloverleafs with their 5.8 gear, because obviously a bigger antenna, as Louis has identified, must be better. I've seen a few people saying, "Can I put these on?" Like, oh dear.
Well, I'm putting a 1 meter antenna on my 2.4 gig receivers because it worked really well in the old days.
Absolutely, yes, that's right.
You all remember M radios and the craziness that was in the times of M radios with the limited power of the M radios. Everybody and their dog stretching out bare naked copper wires alongside the roofs of the houses and all that. So it's the same stupid. A long piece of wire
worked really well for my crystal set when I was a kid.
Absolutely. Yep. Love crystal sets. Yes, but now there's some just almost like miracle modes, JT9 and Whisper, where people get very upset if people go up to 1 watt of power. And on those, on 40 meters and 80 meters, people are getting around the world on some of the digital modes now on 25, 50 milliwatts. Quite amazing technology out there. The ability to pull a signal out of the noise is quite extraordinary.
Yeah, but the
data rates tend to be very slow.
Oh, you know, they are. They are. No, they are very slow. But you know, if you consider what it took a few years ago, you can get with an inductor, you can get the GPIO pin of a flipping Raspberry Pi to do it for you as well. You don't even need a huge amount of technology. Well, that blows my mind. Obviously, you guys are quite disappointed with it. but I think the
my
ability
mind was blown in the 60s.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right, look, it's 1:15. What I thought I would do for next week, because next Tuesday, rather inconveniently, is Christmas Day. So what I thought I'd do is I'll go back through and try and find some of the best clips of 2018, cobble them all together, and maybe I'll be here whilst playing it. I might try one of those, what are premieres or something like that. Sounds very cheesy, doesn't it? So if I make the thing up, and then we can give everybody else a day off as it's Christmas Day. I think that's only fair. So join us, if you will, then on Christmas Day, dear viewer, wherever you are. And I'm going to say cheerio to Nicolette, Louis, and Bruce. I'm looking forward to that video. I'm looking forward more to my 868.1, I think it is, video. But thanks, chaps. Dear viewers, have a lovely Christmas Day. It's coming up. Be safe if you're traveling. Safe journeys to your friends and families and whatever you're doing. And we'll put something pre-recorded up next Tuesday. And I look forward to probably seeing you the Tuesday after that. So thanks very much. 2100 GMT in a couple of weeks' time. Cheers, chaps. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.